Hi guys, Fraser from LIFCO Hydraulics. This one is a troubleshooting video. Customer says they're losing charge pressure. When you hear charge pressure, you immediately think that it's a closed loop pump and motor. So it's a pump coupled to a motor without any impediment between the two of them. Both sides are pressurized, both the A and B outlets of the pump, but one's high pressure and one's low pressure. The low pressure is that what feeds the pump. If the pressure becomes too low in that, then that means you're starving the pump.
So the customer bought two brand new pump and a brand new motor, went with his old charge pump. Had him running in the system, lost charge pressure. So now we're gonna inspect the charge pump, see what it is, and then see how much damage, if any, or what's all wrong with those ones. It's a gear pump. It's blown out a little bit. Housing's pretty grooved. This is your suction, this is your pressure. It's sitting like this. You're gonna have pressure here. The pressure will actually take your gear set and physically move it, and that's what wears your housing out. You'll get a pressure spike, it'll move it a little bit for instantaneous. You got metal, aluminum, harder shit's gonna win. It creates leakage, which allows oil to pass without being pressurized, so you lose flow. So I think what they wanted was to do an inspection on it, see how it was, and then test it and see how it performed. Flow hasn't dropped at all.
Which is good.
Right. So I sent off the information that I calculated the flow to be, or what the CCs should be. Engineering's going to look into it and see if that is adequate for the system requirements.
In this case, the charge pump is a bit small. Remember, it has to make up for the leakage of all the components in this closed loop system. We know that there's two components in a closed loop. It's the pump and it's the motor. Right? Those two are coupled together, unimpeded. But remember, the pumps are not 100% efficient. They're about 95% efficient. That means, though, that 5% of it is leaving this system somewhere. They go out the case drain of them and also to potentially out of a shuttle valve. So the charge pump needs to make up for those components. They said that the charge pump is the same one they have on other units, other machines. Very possible. And it might have worked in the best case scenario. But there are times where it's not the best case scenario, like at startup. Maybe it didn't have a good flow upon startup. It could also be if one of the parts gets damaged, you hear us talk about efficiency, that 95 goes to 90. Now the charge pump has to do more work.
So this is an HPV 280. We did the charge pump earlier. It seems to be holding fine. We're just wondering if it's got insufficient flow or not enough just to keep up with the demand of the entire system. So we're gonna pull this apart and see if there's any damage. Not lifting this one.
No.
It's got some pretty good grooves there. That's pretty deep. So you can see they got a little bit of discoloration here, and it feels like they got some belling starting here, so insufficient case flow or differential between case and inlet. So you've got different color here. This should all be a circle. That should all be a circle.
Yep.
There shouldn't be all those little scratches going through it. And there's little pieces missing here.
Yep. Wow.
And that is poof.
Oh, yeah.
If you can hear the scratching,
Yep.
you know it's bad.
The belling. So if you see the belling, those piston shoes, they ride along that swash plate. And if you see two pieces of metal against each other, then they have to have a thin coat of oil in between there. And they should be balanced, or they're pressurized. If that becomes starved of oil, then it will start to touch, and it could even lift off and slam back down and so forth.
Cradle's gone, pistons are gone. The barrel may lap up. I'll give it a quick preliminary lap. Port plate's not serviceable. It's got to get replaced with new regardless. So
Yeah. What is the exact model of this guy?
this is an HMA 280. So it's basically a really big fixed motor. So if you looks very, very similar to the pump. A few differences, of course, but
It's like you're doing the same thing all over again.
basically it is the exact same thing for this as it is for the other one.
Just doesn't have controls on it, right?
Correct. This has got it's got a fixed control. So this is the control. So this is basically the same thing as an HMV. It's just take your max volumes and mechanically pin it and then disable the control. So instead of going from min to max, it stays at whatever volume you want it.
Okay, this HMA, it's a fixed motor, but now he's talking about being able to change the displacement. Well, that's what the A means in it. In the HMA, it means adjustable. The HMA is just the same as the HPV, but it doesn't have the controls. So it still has a swash plate. There's just nothing moving that swash plate. It just gets fixed into one position, and it just stays in that position.
These don't have the belling,
Okay.
but that makes sense because this is a motor, not a pump. So it may affect it differently. This one don't feel too bad. Again, port plates are not serviceable, so that has to get replaced regardless.
Yep.
But, you know, it looks like new bearings because we don't know the hours. Seal kit, reshim, lap it. Should clean up. So that's pretty much that for that. That's it.
I was the one who took this call, actually. We were trying to troubleshoot it on the machine because they really didn't want to take it off. But in this case, as soon as we saw problems with charge pressure and we confirmed that the charge pump works, there's only two other components. Something's wrong with them. They need to be inspected. So now in this case here, now we're back on track with it. Proper startup instructions, and I'm actually going to reach out to that customer and just to reiterate of the proper startup procedures, which is make sure you see charge pressure very early on. Like you should be jogging it, particularly in a gear motor, you should be jogging it within 3 to 4 seconds. You should be where your charge pressure needs to be, or at least rapidly climbing. We actually have another video coming up here in, I want to say, 2 weeks. We were just trying to tackle the problem yesterday. We had a very large closed loop pump, so one that was actually twice the size of this HPV 280. It's a P30. We had a similar problem in the startup where we could not get charge pressure. In fact, we actually couldn't even get charge flow. It's all the flow that is leaking through all of the components and then going back to the tank. It's possible that they ran into a similar circumstance like this. You have to simply monitor the charge pressure when you're turning it on. I don't want to give away the ending for our 20 viewers. I don't want to give it away for the next video. Okay, you got to pay attention here. I can't lose. Okay, we don't have any to lose. Okay, we gotta keep what we got here. So I'm going to keep you here. You got to watch the next one. It's a P30 where we ran into a problem upon startup, and it's very likely that it was the same cause of the failure on this one.